Just a few quick thoughts about this drone situation that is primarily rolling out in the US. There have been reports, evidently, of these sightings in other countries, but I personally haven't located any convincing evidence of that. I've seen it mainly concentrated around the US and a couple in the UK concerning, military bases being swarmed by these drones. But I would say, interestingly enough, OpenAI announced a partnership with a company called Anduril, and Anduril Industries not too long ago. It was probably only a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago. It's announcing that they would be providing AI to Anduril in order to implement AI into the drones that Anduril would manufacture for the US military. So potentially you may be seeing some of these early test craft in the skies, maybe, or perhaps more likely this is an attempt by government to pass this new legislation relating to drones and drone regulation. If you listen to the press conferences that have followed the initial press conferences by the Pentagon and the White House, the government officials, at least some of them, the ones who have been given the most coverage, have worked into their statements that the states require greater power in order to regulate drone activity under federal supervision. So what they're basically saying, it seems, is they want the public, and this is because they're not identifying what these drone sightings are, but they're not acknowledging that they're a threat at the same time, they're creating uncertainty and a sense of panic in the community. And what that leads to is the people asking or demanding in the end, because of the frustration of not knowing what these drones are, demanding that the government do more to regulate the airspace. And that leads to regulation which will enable companies like Anduril to fly in US airspace, regulated and fully authorized, to take out the bad drones. But in actual fact, these companies like Anduril will be using the drone technology, which will be powered by AI, to surveil the public. So what essentially is happening is the problem is being created so that the public demand a solution out of fear and frustration, and that solution ends up being worse than the current problem by far, because it will mean constant surveillance by these drones, which will become normalized, and people will eventually learn to incorporate this into their daily lives and just accept that these drones are there, but they're the good drones. They're not the bad drones. So, Anduril and these other companies, they're the good guys. They're going to be getting rid of the bad drones. They'll take them out of the skies. So then the public will be happy about that. The threat will be removed. But the greater threat is the surveillance and the control that these companies will have over the public. And of course, law enforcement will be authorized to use AI-powered drones to enforce laws. So they could be used for all sorts of purposes. We've already seen the demonstrations by these companies that are manufacturing the drones or intend to manufacture the drones of how powerful these things are and how lethal they can be. And you see drone activity in places like what's happening in the Ukraine, Syria, Gaza, all of this activity. You can see how much destruction drones can cause. And so this will be positioned as the justification for installing a permanent US authorized drone squad, essentially, which will be manufactured by these private corporations and in part operated by them under federal supervision, and it will be that a state law enforcement will then be equipped with these drones also. So what's happening at the moment is it's a demonstration of the inadequacy of the current regulations so that the public demand change. But the change is intended to enslave the population further. That's basically the intention, to give the government more power and control. And because it will be under federal jurisdiction, it's being proposed that way at least, they will have ultimate oversight, and they can determine how these drones are authorised and what their purpose is. So again, it's actually more power being taken away from the public, but at the moment the frustration is being caused intentionally to lead to this outcome. Those are my thoughts, and I think OpenAI probably will have a major role in supplying the technology to these drone manufacturers in order to make the drones more lethal, more effective by their standards, and unfortunately, ultimately, more of a threat to the American people.